Hello everyone and welcome to this tutorial on scheduling a meeting in Zoom. Zoom you will probably have heard of, particularly over the last couple of months in the COVID-19 pandemic. If you're watching this tutorial afterwards, that is equally acceptable, and it's great to hear that you are thinking about using Zoom. Zoom has many different capabilities and there is lots of information on both the URC websites. So if you visit urc.org.uk and look for information guides, or visit www.urcyorkshire.org.uk, then there is booklets on there as well about how to use Zoom and ways in which we could use Zoom. This video specifically is just going to look at scheduling a meeting in Zoom. Now, scheduling is a bit of a misnomer in this case because we're going to actually just look at creating a meeting basically, but Zoom calls it the schedule function. So you can see the schedule function here in the bottom left-hand corner. I'm currently on the Zoom homepage. This is what I'm greeted with when I log in. So you can see my profile picture in the top right-hand corner here. I have logged in using my profile. You can create a profile very easily on Zoom. It's worth noting at this point that I have the basic Zoom package, so this is the free one, and so there will be some subtle differences between what I am able to do and what most people with the Pro package are able to do. I would recommend as a church or as an organisation that you get yourselves a Pro package. As I said, there are some differences and they won't be covered much in this tutorial, but any small nuances for the purposes of this tutorial will be. So, as I said, this is the homepage of Zoom and I have four options really. I can create a new meeting. Now, this isn't really a function that would be very useful because creating a new meeting is just about creating one here and now. Obviously, you want to be creating meetings giving people a notice, so that's why we're using the schedule function. So we're not going to look at the new meeting function in this tutorial. The top right icon, we have join. So this is if you're joining somebody else's meeting where you have been provided with either the link or the meeting ID and password, which you can pop in when you click the join button. We're looking at a scenario where you are the host of the meeting, so we're going to click schedule. I'll just say at this point as well that scheduling a meeting, we're not necessarily talking about an actual meeting. We could be. You could be using Zoom for an elders meeting or a pastoral care team meeting, any sort of meeting really, or we could be using it just as a gathering, perhaps a coffee morning or a social event or perhaps worship. So we can call this meeting as such, whatever we like. There's a topic here at the top that we can use, and I'm just going to call it church for the sake of argument. You will see that there's a start date and time here. Now, whilst we look at this, I urge you not to worry too much about the time because Zoom will not constrain you with the times that you have set. So say this date, 3rd of June, at 8 o'clock, if I don't start the meeting or have the meeting at that point, Zoom won't mind at all. But don't worry about the time anyway, because this is going to disappear very shortly, because the next thing I recommend that you tick when scheduling a meeting is the recurring meeting button. So as I click that, you'll see that the time disappears. Now, a recurring meeting doesn't literally have to be a recurring meeting. It doesn't have to happen on a regular occasion, such as once a week or anything. It doesn't even have to occur at a specific time. But we would recommend using the recurring meeting function because it generates the same meeting ID. So the next thing down is the meeting ID. And we're going to click to generate this automatically. And when we have a recurring meeting, it will keep the same ID each time we use the meeting. So this is very useful so that you only need to send out one link to people and people can write that down and keep hold of it so we don't have to send the meeting details out again and again. You'll see that there is a requirement to set a password. If you're on the Pro account, you don't need to set a password. I would recommend having a password just in case as an additional level of security. Again, don't worry about the complexity of this password, as this can all be sent on to your invitees. You'll see the video option is off for both the host and the participants. This is just an initial video off. You can choose to turn your video on when the meeting begins, and the participants can do the same. We're going to ignore this calendar section here. This is an additional level of integration that Zoom can have with your digital calendars. We're not going to cover that in this tutorial. We're then going to look at the advanced options. So you'll see that Zoom has suggested that we enable waiting room, as this is already ticked. We too would recommend enabling the waiting room. Again, another additional level of security, so you can see who is coming into the meeting. You can't see their picture, but you can see their name when they enter the waiting room, and it's up to you then as the host to accept them into the meeting. So as I say, we'll recommend that you keep this one ticked. Enable join before host. It's up to you if you have this option enabled or not. This is basically so that others can join the meeting without you having joined it already. Meet participants upon entry. Well, it depends on the size of the meeting you're planning on having. If you're having, for example, 100 participants, or even anything above about 20, we recommend that you tick this option to mute participants upon entry, because it can get quite chaotic with that many people either trying to talk at the same time, or simply people's background noises occurring all at the same time. It can get quite distressing. So we'd recommend ticking that for that number of participants. But if you're having, say, just an elders meeting where there's maybe 10 or a maximum of about 20 people, you don't need to have this ticked. Automatically record meeting on the local computer. Well, I don't think we really need to automatically record. There is the option to record when the meeting begins, which is a handy function in some circumstances, but we're not going to automatically record, so we'll leave this unticked. It's worth noting at this point that all of these advanced options can be changed at a later time or date. They can even be changed when the meeting is in progress, so don't worry too much about which options you have chosen. A lot of these options are also covered in the Using Zoom Securely booklet, which is located on the URC Yorkshire website. So I've set all my options here, so I'm going to click the schedule button now. As I say, schedule is a bit of a misnomer in this case, as we haven't actually set a date or time on Zoom. So our meeting has now been scheduled, and this is the invite we have been given by Zoom to send to people. So I'm going to send this invite out to people either by email or phone. And the main thing that people need, particularly if they're on an email, the most useful thing on this link here. People can simply click this link straight away from their email, and it will take them straight to the Zoom meeting. This saves them having to put in the meeting ID and password. If you're giving it to people over the phone, then you only really need to give them the meeting ID and the password. I certainly wouldn't recommend trying to sound out the link over the phone. So what people would do in this case is they would go onto their Zoom in the same way that we did earlier, click join, they would enter this meeting ID, and they would enter this password, and they would be able to join the meeting. Obviously, we are assuming that people using Zoom are online and have an email, so we're going to presume from this point forward that we're just going to be emailing people mostly. So we're going to copy this to the clipboard. The clipboard is the sort of temporary board on a computer where if you copy something, it remains on that clipboard until you copy something new. So when we copy to clipboard, as you can see, it's been copied. We're then going to paste that into our email that we're sending to people. So when we're in our email, we right-click and then click paste, or a shortcut is pressing and holding Control in the bottom left hand of your computer, or Command if you're on a Mac, and then V. So this invitation is going to be sent out to people, and as I said, there's no time in this invitation, so make sure that you add that in to the email that you're sending to people. So say we're having our elders meeting next Wednesday at 8 o'clock, and then you can paste this invitation after that time and date that you've put in the email. So let's presume we've done that, and we're now ready to start our meeting. So again, we would open up Zoom when it's time for the meeting, and we would click this Meetings tab at the top here. So as you can see, the meeting that we scheduled is here, and the meeting ID is there as well. You have the option to copy the invitation again if you need to send it to more people. And it's worth noting at this point, so we're just going to show the meeting invitation again, that because I have the basic account, I do not have the option of phone numbers. One of the advantages of Zoom is that people with just a phone, they don't need an internet connection, can phone into the meeting and use audio only. So this is great for people who are offline. It's only the Pro package that allows this, not the basic package. So that's the difference between the basic and the Pro package in this scenario. There are other differences, and these are explained in the Zoom booklets available on our website. So when we're ready to start the meeting, we simply click Start. As I say, there's the edit option there as well to edit the meeting options if we wish. So it's time for the meeting. We will click Start. So I'm going to join with my computer audio, and I'm going to start my video down here. As you can see, the video has been started. As the meeting host, you have two options to end the meeting. We're not going to cover the ins and outs of Zoom in this tutorial, as we're just looking at scheduling a meeting. The Zoom booklets do tell you how to use Zoom and all the options and functions that you can see at the bottom here. But in terms of ending the meeting, as the meeting host, you have two options. You can either end the meeting for all, which disbands the meeting totally, and so whether people like it or not, the meeting is over. Or you can leave the meeting just yourself, so that will leave everybody else still in the meeting to leave whenever they like. So we're going to end the meeting for all in this case. You will see that because it's a recurring meeting, Zoom has not deleted this meeting, so we can have this again and again. So as you can see, the meeting ID, when I contact people again to say that, for example, we're having our elders meeting again next week, because we're a very hardcore church, so we're having an elders meeting every week, you can simply say it's the same meeting ID, the same password as last time. You can create as many of these scheduled meetings as you like by going back to the home button and following the steps again in the schedule function. However, it is worth noting that you can only actually have one of these meetings and perhaps one for the entire church for maybe your Sunday worship. You could have one for your elders meeting or your pastoral care team meeting. You could have separate ones with separate IDs so that you don't have people joining the wrong meetings. This is the end of the tutorial, but please bear in mind that this is not the end of the support that Synod offers to you. So if you have any further questions, this is very much just a starter for 10. So if you have any more questions and want to explore Zoom or anything about digital media further, then please do get in touch. The details are in the video description. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you soon.